is showing up in all of those conversations. And so many people sabotage themselves in the work environment because of all of that personal stuff. So until we can get managers talking about personal goals, personal aspirations, personal beliefs and intentions, and things that people want to achieve and what they need to change or learn or derive insights around so that they can achieve them, we're just going to be incredibly unfair to a lot of people.
Well, I mean, it is true. I mean, if you've got a sick kid at home, or, what do you do? Especially if you're a single parent, what do you do? I mean, you can't send your kid to school sick. You don't have anybody to take care of them. I mean, I do think that people need to recognize that there are situations that need to be taken care of. On the other hand, because a person in that employ is single with no responsibilities, they shouldn't always be considered to take up the slack. That's another issue that I find people have to deal with. So I think you're right on target. I mean, in today's world, that's one of the reasons that our younger generation says, look, I don't want to work for anybody. I want to conduct my own life because I want to have the life that I want to lead. So in an ideal world, Mary, how should business and management be conducted?
In an ideal world, we would train managers from a young age on, well, let me break it down into 3 sections. So the first section is how to manage work. And I do believe that from a young age, we need children to start learning about outcomes and outputs and setting goals in a way that is more constructive. Because once they get into the work environment, organizations grow based on people who think about results and work backwards to figure out how they're going to get those results. And so when we look at the job, we want to make sure that everybody in the business environment is managing to a job that has very clear outputs on which evaluation is objective and tangible, and action plans can be developed in order to achieve those outcomes. And that if you do that well, then you actually start to remove a lot of the conflict that happens in today's environment. And a lot of businesses actually, where they see conflict, they start with personality and teamwork and training around interpersonal skills. I actually do the opposite. Where I see conflict, I go in and I say, show me how you set objectives every year.
Interesting. So what can we do? What can we do now to point us in that direction?
What managers can do now, and anybody in business can do this, including entrepreneurs and consultants and coaches, is begin by looking at how the jobs are defined. And if the job is defined as a set of activities, for example, a job description, then we need to really convert that job description in a clear set of outputs on which people are evaluated. Today, too many organizations are evaluating people based on personality. Do a little bit of research on outputs, or give me a call or send me an email and I'll help steer you in the right direction. But was really getting clear on that piece. And then once we have that clear, we can move on to behavior and personality. Because the behavior and personality piece comes from what's required of the job. And how you interact with people relates directly back to that.
So what is the single best piece of career or management advice you would give to the women out there?
My best piece of advice, and I did this early on in my career, is get a mentor or coach who's going to challenge your thinking about yourself and your environment. Find somebody who's going to ask you really thought-provoking questions that will challenge you to think longer term about your career, that will help you get a little bit selfish about what you want, and then will guide you and steer you towards the resources and the things that you will need to be successful. We look at the COO, for example, of Facebook, who's come out with this wonderful book called Lean In. And if you've read that book, she never did that alone. The amount of self-talk that women produce for themselves around how they can't go for it or how they have all these other obligations or all of those things, she didn't change that mindset alone. She had people that asked her and challenged her and moved her forward. So that would be my biggest suggestion. And that's what we try and do both in my coaching business and in some of the other women in leadership events that I get involved in, is we aim to move people forward in their thinking by asking them questions that they can't think to ask themselves. And because one of my mantras is the quality of your life is directly proportional to the quality of the questions you ask yourself.
Well, that's so true, very true. Well, now let's do this before because we've got about 4 minutes left, and I want to make sure we get everything in. Where can people find you? And I think you have something special that you'd like to offer our listeners.
Absolutely. So people can find me on my website at themanagementcoach.com. I'm also on LinkedIn and Facebook and happy to have lots of followers there as well as Twitter. And one thing that we've put together for your listeners, Gail, is a free ebook that will help your listeners shortcut their way to sanity. And the ebook's called 7 Essential Management Skills That Will Shortcut Your Way to Sanity.
I love that.
Oh, yeah, it's really great. It's the 7 skills that I teach my clients that they need to understand in order to be successful in their careers. And so people can get that download at sanityskills.com/Gail Carson, all lowercase, GAYLECARSON, sanityskills.com/Gail Carson.
Fabulous. That sounds terrific. Well, now let me ask you, do you think you have a 2-minute story that you can tell us from some of your experiences as a management coach?
I have lots of stories, but maybe what I'll do is I'll just share with your listeners how I got started because I think it's illustrative of what happens in business. So I launched my business on a Saturday morning, which was the day after my last day of work. And I had been working on a client project. I had sent an email off to my manager and attached the project to it. It was in a PowerPoint and it was in the client's format. And she emailed me back and she said, and by the way, at the time, I was one of the top performers in the company. And she said, "This isn't good. I can't believe you sent this to me. We can't send this to the client." She had already done a number of things to, let's say, tweak my nerves. So I decided at that moment that I was going to quit my job. And I actually didn't quit my job because I loved my job. I loved the work I was doing. What I did was quit my manager.
Great approach. Great approach. That's fantastic. That's fantastic. And then you started your business from there?
And I started my business from there. At the time, the management coach is what I called myself. And it's stuck ever since. And my goal in life is to help managers and executives fulfill their personal goals and aspirations. And I help them be more effective along the way doing it.
Fantastic. That's great. Well, this is Dr. Gail Carson, thanking you for listening to Women in Business, the show that brings you entrepreneurs and owners of businesses and senior managers. Did you enjoy this week's show? Then join us next week for more exciting and informative guests on women in business. I would love to hear from you as to people you'd like on the show, questions you have for me, and you can email me at Gail, Gayle Carson, 13 @gmail.com, or go to my website, spunkyoldbroad.com.